agreed to kind of do an open Q&A because I figured, don't listen to me, listen to somebody who's actually gone through this and used this tool so you can maybe ask the questions that you're asking. So I'm going to put him on the spot. His name is Craig Reilly. He's CEO of PlusOne Solutions here locally out by UCF on Quadrangle. Where are you located, Quadrangle? Quadrangle. Yeah. So PlusOne is using the predictive index to grow their culture and reach their goals, which are pretty lofty. They're located, headquartered in Orlando. They have an office in Boise, founded in 2005, privately held. Here's Craig smiling there. That's his information if you want to reach him. I'm putting him on the spot again. PlusOne Solutions provides a suite of services specifically designed to quickly increase the quality and reduce the cost of maintaining high-performance service networks. Came off his website. I can't tell you what it means. He'll have to tell you. Because he's got a lot of intricate moving parts, very interesting, high people activity, and he had some issues when he came to us. So, risk specialists at PlusOne work proactively with contractors, vendors, and their agents to identify and resolve issues before they create problems using background screenings, drug testing, training, certifications, and more. Specialties are background screening all the way through this. So you do this under contract for clients, correct? Right. And your clients range in employees of size to what to what?
Our customers like Whirlpool, Samsung, Sears, GE, Lux, so major corporations.
Come on, step in the middle here. Let's see your smiling face. And you have how many employees?
53.
And they're spread out between Boise, and you got somebody in Canada or something?
Right, we have some remote employees, but most of them are Boise, Orlando.
So here was the backstory. Craig's goal was to grow the company from $6 million revenue to $20 million revenue by 2020. Pretty lofty goal. That's a lot of growth. So what did he determined he needed to accomplish a couple of things. I'll let him fill in the details. Improve hiring processes, because you have an HR person, right, and a CFO, so he's got components of the process. Getting the right people in the right seats. All right, we talked about that. Reduce, and not mishires like Miss USA, it should be mishires, MIS. Reduce bad hires, right? Get the leadership speaking the same language, so that everybody's having the same conversation, the same language, on the same page, and focus company internal communication on engaging and developing employees. Is that a fair assessment?
Pretty close. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So from here, I'm going to ask Craig a couple of questions. Do you have your sheet? I'm going to pull up mine if I can. Can I pinch your sheet? Do you have your worksheet? The email? Otherwise, I'm going to pull them up.
Yeah.
I got it.
Go ahead, starting. So, I tell you, I'm like type A personality. It bothers the crap out of me that we're behind schedule. I mean, that's the type of personality I have. So I look at the agenda and say, what we ought to be at this point right now. So that gives you an idea of sort of how I run my organization. As we grow, we've gone from a very small company starting off with no customers, just a thought, a vision in my mind, and we've grown the company to about $6 million. We've been $6 million for 3 years now, which is really what caused part of the change, because when I looked at our employees, what I realized is we really have about 5 different departments. And I look at turnover rate. So, and I noticed that we were having, at least in one department, we have a pretty high turnover rate. And I kept looking at the employees and saying, but I can tell once we onboard them that they're unhappy. I can tell what's going on. And so I started looking at it and saying, but they're hiring them with this profile, and this is before we did predictive index, to put them in this type of role. And then they were training them for that role, and then they put them into something else. So you're training somebody to be a compliance specialist, to sit there and look at detail, process detail, and then what do? We put them on the phone where they have to interact with customers and contractors and other folks, which goes completely against what they want to do. So you see them churn, and you heard before just the cost of mishire. I mean, it's just tremendous. So that was where we started from, but then what I realized is when we started looking at the executive team, we were in the same boat, because when I hired people over the time, I hired a lot of people like me. So when we get into a room, we're all sort of the same personality. I mean, you look at the placard that we all have, we all want to drive. We're all sort of, we're not extroverts, we're more introverts. We like to get things done by putting processes in place and not by working through people. So it really started to come together and say, you know what, we have sort of the wrong culture in place because we have an operational culture. So a process-driven operational culture. And in order for us to move forward, we need to really make that change. And a couple of years ago, just shy of a couple of years ago, we hired a new outside salesperson. And that person came in and we had a strategic session out in Boise with the leadership team. And after a couple of days, that outside salesperson came in and said, you know, you guys have a disdain for sales. And he used the word disdain. He said, you have a disdain for sales, this organization. He says, you're all operationally focused. You're looking at things much differently than we should. And, you know, that hit us all between the eyes. And it started the transformation of our change at that point. And it wasn't an easy way to go through it. And then we ran across predictive index. And we started looking at that and said, okay, how can we make this work? And resolving the issue with the mishires we're dealing with a lot of employees, as well as changing our culture. And when we did the predictive index, what we found out very quickly was everybody was almost exactly like me. The entire leadership team had the exact same profile that I did. And when we were smaller, when we were smaller, that worked well because everybody had to have heads down, get the job done. But now as we're starting to grow, we're starting to expand, go to new verticals, we had to have a very different mentality about it. So I'm in the process right now of hiring a new SVP because that VP of sales did not work out. But he made significant progress on changing our culture going through the whole process. Turned out he was not the right person overall because he was an individual contributor, not a leader of the organization. So we are now bringing on a leader of an organization, just hired another person out of California at a senior level, paying a lot more than I ever would have thought of to bring that person on. But part of what we look for if we ran predictive indexes, we pulled somebody to complement or really build that organization. And this SVP I talked to the other night, he asked me, he says, how do you guys make decisions? Which was key to him. And I said, you know, I'm going to tell you what it's been like, and I'm going to tell you where we're headed and why I'm headed that way. I said, you know, we're more of a collaborative team, but we all have the same type of personality. So for us, it's heads down, this is the way it needs to be done. What I'm looking for is to bring on people that have more of a customer-centric or customer-focused. The new leadership team that are making decisions are now balanced as we brought in the different personalities that will now be customer-focused and operational focused together. And that team together needs to make decisions. So that's the big reason why we made the change and why we use predictive index so much.
Awesome. So that you know about Craig, he's the kind of guy that'll type out a very detailed email, a lot of information, press send, run down the hall and say, did you get my email yet?
That's exactly it. Yep.
So you get this huge email with a lot of information, but he's had to learn, okay, I got to put the brakes on, tell people more specifically what I need, and then let it happen. So, and that's a great segue into, and part of the challenge is buy-in. How did you get the company to buy in? Because once you tell somebody, hey, we're going to assess you, what's the first thing people think? Are you setting me up to fire me? Am I going to lose my job? Are we selling? You know, what are all the things that you had to battle?
So the first thing I did is, I did the predictive index. I actually did a couple different indexes, so I was shopping around. But what I did is I did the indexes, and then I took my index, I took my behavior, took everything that was reported, and I gave it to the leadership team and the management team and said, here, take a look at what came back. You tell me, is this reflective of me? And they all came back and were surprised. They said, this sort of outlined you to the T. So I said, well, my next step is I want to do this for you as well. So I want you guys to participate as part of this, and I'm going to ship it out so you can see your own. And they were also, okay, we're okay with that, we want to look at that. So they did that, and they were all surprised how well it matched exactly what their profile was. And then we started laying it out with everybody side by side and say, you know what, here's the team, here's what we do. So I had to get the leadership team and the management team to buy in first, and then we decided we were going to move forward with it. So then I made the decision. It says, you know, we're doing this company-wide. So to all 53 employees, we're going to push this out to, we're going to have everybody do it. And sure enough, what everybody says, You're just doing this because you want to replace me or move me out of my position. I don't want to move. And we told everybody, you know, predictive index is great for hiring, but if you've been in the job for a while and you've been doing that job and you're doing well, that is, you can't use just the PI for that. You have to use how you're doing. So we sort of calmed them a little bit, and we went ahead and pushed it out. And then what HR did is they sat with every employee for 30 minutes and covered the predictive index with them. And said, you know, here is what came back. Here is sort of your profile. Here are the types of jobs you like, or the types of roles and functions you would like in a job. And 50 of the 53 employees said, man, I never knew this about me. And they were excited about it. 3 of the employees came back and said, that's really not me. And I said, well, that's how you answer the predictive index. And then they would come back and say, well, it's because when I'm in this situation at a party, this is the way I am, but I'm not like this all the time. Well, that's sort of how your personality came out when it came into it. So we did that. The next thing we did, or backing up just a little bit, after the entire management team did our predictive index, and we all agreed that this was a good thing, we took our placards and we put them on all of our doors before we even said anything to the employees.
Can I jump in real quick? A placard is just a really quick graphic representation of your PI pattern simplistic and really visual, so people can see it from a distance.
So it has 4 indicators on it. I mean, it's very good, very clear. So people start looking at that and saying, what does that mean? So they start asking questions about it. So then we did the predictive index with everybody, and then the HR sat down with everybody, went through it, and then every one of the employees voted they wanted to do the same thing. They took all their placards and they put them up on their cubicles or workstations or whatever, so everybody in the company could see where everybody was at. And I mean, the buy-in was phenomenal. We now use it for every hire. Anybody that applies for a position, they have to do the PI before we review the resume. So we moved it in front of the resume review period. Some of the senior execs, we also do the learning indicator, which is another tool that we use. And since then, we have had very few mishires. I mean, I haven't run our turnover rate again. I won't run until the end of the year, see how we're doing, but I can tell you, I mean, our turnover rate has almost dropped to, it's down in the low single digits, I can tell you. It's just been phenomenal, and the build out of the executive team now and some of the other stuff we're doing for hiring, you can start to see the change in the company as we start to look more toward a customer-focused organization instead of an operational-focused organization.
And that's awesome. The other thing that it did, I think, was create the belief that you were starting a culture of transparency.
Yes.
Because you were willing to share this information with everybody with no caveats or no hiding, or it was open for everybody. They could see yours, they know how you're wired, you can see theirs. So it was that step towards that cultural change, which you talked about. How do we change culture if we've got misalignment or bad culture? You start with saying, you know, really doing what you say you're going to do, and say we're going to be transparent, and this is how we start that. What's been the most, you say your reduction in turnover. I know their HR person who he's got employed knows him very well, his wife. One of her issues when we started was she was not having success in a role that they were trying to employ or fill through job posting. She was getting a bunch of resumes, she was spending a ton of time with resumes, wasn't getting any success. So we were able to use the job assessment to define the job she was looking to fill and use that as part of their job posting. And so when I talked to her about it after she got some traction, she goes, well, I'm just not getting the number of results I used to get. I was like, that's kind of the idea. But are the people that you're getting ones you want to talk to? She goes, yeah, all the ones we're getting, we talk to, they're all great. We're just not getting enough of them. Well, I can't help you put fish in the pond, but I can find the right fish in it. All right? So any other impactful thing you would comment?
Talk about the assessments, and we do push the assessments out for every position we have in the company. The assessments take 4 or 5 people that have experience in that role, whether it's sales or production or whatever it might be, and have them go through a very quick sort of 3-page survey selecting traits, and it gives a profile for that role. It says, you know what, this type of role needs this type of, this type of A, this type of B, C, D. And since we've been following that, I mean, we brought people in and they're ecstatic. We don't put anybody in anymore that we've hired for a clerical compliance type, head down type thing and put them on the phone. Don't do it anymore. And just the feedback has just been tremendous for us. So.
Any questions? I've got him for a limited amount of time. I don't want to exhaust him, but any questions?